Alright, welcome back guys. I'm going to start this episode in the workshop. We've been doing beams, off camera we're doing the deck beams like we did last episode. So up to 3 5-metre beams now. Tell a lie, one slightly shorter. But one planed one glued up one, and one we glued up this morning. So in total we're going to be having 12 beams. So starting at the front, 1, 2, 3. So these ones here are only short, so we're going to be cutting these ones in half or at the required length. But now we're up to number 5. So we don't think we're going to be needing number 5, but we thought we'd best make it, just in case we make an error when we're on the boat, and then we can actually use that one then, can't we? So, and then it'll always be in stock.
But before we can fit the deck beams, we've got a lot of packers to make that go between the beam shelf and the planks. So let's go and get that processed.
Before we shoot off and make the packers...
Just told me to stop and I'm like, go on, what are we stopping for?
What are we going to finish them in?
Oh.
Honestly, who put that there?
Who put that there? Right, me and Simon, we always get on really well and always quite agree on how we're going to do things, but not with this. So we need your input. So the deck beams, they are too beautiful to paint, I think. And thinking long term, you know, for the aesthetics inside the boat, I'd love to keep, you know, I don't want to cover them with grey paint or anything. But here's the train of thought. Do we epoxy coat them? But then if you think we will be screwing our plywood decks into these, and is there a chance that if we epoxy them and encapsulate them in epoxy, and if by any chance, even if the deck is going to be fiberglassed, if any water got in there, you're going to rot them from the inside out because they can't breathe when they're in epoxy. Do we varnish them, but then you've got the upkeep of the varnish, or do we oil them, but then you've got the upkeep of the oil? What do you think? Because Simon wants to epoxy them, and I'm like, I'm worried about the fear of it rotting from the inside out, because you're encapsulating it, the wood can't breathe. But then we don't want to have to varnish or whatever every year to keep them looking nice. So we're a bit like, we don't know. I am thinking oil, Simon's thinking epoxy, because to oil them on a cloth every now and again, quite easy really, isn't it? What do you think? We need your input on this. So we've ran out of oak, and the only piece of oak we've got left is this. Now we haven't, every packer size is different, so we're just going to process it to sort of long skinny bits that fit in, and then when we get to the boat we can cut them to the length that we need. So we need to get this down. The biggest packer section is about 150mm, so we need to get these 150mm strips by the thickness of a frame, which is 38mm, and then we can cut them when we get to the boat for each one, because each one is a different size. So we need to process this. It's not the best piece of wood, but as I say, we only need sort of 150mm bits, so we should be able to get that there. We are going to have a lot of wastage because of the splits and cracks.
That's the middle of the tree anyway, so that's usually the...
So we need to get rid of the sapwood, get rid of all the splitty bits, and see how many bits of packers we can get out of this. And then yeah, we do need to go and buy some more stock of oak, which is always great on the bank balance, isn't it? So when you're dealing with a big piece of wood that hasn't got a straight edge to deal with to get through the saw, we always just screw a straight edge to it, and then we use that through the guide of the saw, and then that gives you a nice straight cut to work with.
So that was 680.
Yeah, and then that gets rid of the sapwood then as well.
And then we'll see how we get on from there.
So we set our big saw now then to 680. So now we've got a nice straight edge to work from and get rid of that bit.
We get some complimentary firewood. So you wouldn't think out that massive chunk that you're gonna get 2 pieces like that, don't you?
I know, you get a lot of wastage, don't you, with natural wood and stuff, because it does crack and you have to get rid of the sapwood and then all the splits and stuff. But they should get us going for now. So, time to whiz these through the planer. So we bought this crappy little planer at the very beginning and it wasn't expensive, it was like 200 quid. And to be honest, we thought, oh, it's going to be cheap, it's going to be crap. It's done the job.
We've abused it.
We have abused it. Every piece of wood that's gone onto Sarinda has passed this little plane. You know, every sort of frame and stringer and web frame and all the deck beams and stuff. So I think we definitely need to invest in some blades. But apart from that, also a little bit of kit. You don't need to spend thousands and thousands. Yeah. On the really expensive stuff.
You do.
Ideally, it's hell, but
yeah, we'll do it twice as fast, but you can get by with this.
Yeah.
The only problem with this, the blades are quite expensive, aren't they?
The blades, yeah, that's the thing. When it's like printers, isn't it? Yeah. When you buy a printer, dead cheap. The ink's always dead expensive. So it's the same with this. The blades are really expensive, but we'd be screwed without that. It's a really, really good bit of kit. And they didn't sponsor us. We paid for it. But we like it, don't we? Yeah.
Watch it die now. Beautiful. I love oak. We've been using a lot of Iroko just recently, but oak, you got all these little lines in it, what they call it, the medullary lines or something like that. But
it's pretty, isn't it?
It's pretty, yeah.
Okay, so there's not much more we can do on them, so nope. Should we go back to the boat and get them cut to size and fitted? Yeah. Let's go.
So where the packers go, they go in between the hull and the beam shelf, so they basically go down there. So they go between the hull and the beam shelf, basically makes the whole top of the beam shelf not a solid, but there's a lot of mass there in there for stuff to screw to. So our bulwarks will be screwed to the packer, well, through the hull and through the packers, and then when the deck beams go to the proper length, so they'll basically push up against the packers or the frames, and then there's them pieces in between. So imagine our deck beams there, then there'll be pieces in between. So we'll have basically a lot of mass then, won't we, around there. So before we actually cut the packers and fit the packers, what I've done is I've made a tool, because what we need to know is the deck height. So we've sort of got the beams as a reference, and we've also got the original planks. So the original planks finish here. So we left these long. So what I've done, I've basically been round the boat on all the original planks. So the difference around it is basically 5.5 inches. So what I've done is made a tool. So this tool has got an offset of 5.5 inches. So if we put the tool now against there, so then that gives us a measurement here. So this is where we're going to have to cut the deck back to. So if I now go around and draw on all these, just to give us a reference at the moment on where we need to cut the packer height to, because there's no point going too high. And then we can then cut them all back at once then they'll all be the right length. That's the ferry, let's see how we get on. So we've now got our reference marks now. So I think what we'll do now is we'll make a list on all the widths and the heights now. Then we'll go and get all them cuts ready to go in. So number 2 is 128. So this is all the material we've got to work with. I think this might be short-lived. We'll definitely need to get some more oak. But we've got a new tool. Bought this second-hand, big saw. So you can do a cut that way, cut this way, and is it compound saw, is it called? It basically slides like that, so we got to do our like big long cuts. It's coming handy in the future, this, when we're doing a bit of interior work and stuff, won't it? So let's see if we can put it to some good use. Right, so here's my list. Let's get cutting. Typical Smith second hand, eh? So the first proper cut I've ever done with it, I just give up. And then I gave the motor a bit of a hit, so the brushes are sticking out. So I'll have a look at the brushes and see if there might be a part number on there to try and get some brushes for it. Right. First piece. So now I need to reduce the size this way now. So we'll use the little table saw so we can get it parallel. Typical of us, all of our saws never quite cut all the way through, so I had to put it through twice. I really miss my workshop. It'd be great to have the boat next to the workshop, wouldn't it? You just go in the big panel saws and stuff, but in the field makes it more fun, doesn't it? It's a bit more time consuming. Doesn't help that we're using the cheapest of the cheap though, does it, in tools, do you know what I mean? But one day we'll invest. Not quite the best fit, but I think basically it gives something for like the bulwarks are screwed to, doesn't it? And then the packers which run between the two deck beams to screw to. But we'll try and make the next set a bit tighter so we can give them a good knock in. But obviously got to put paint on them. We're going to put some adhesive down there. But yeah, it's all good. So what I'm not too sure about what to do is knock it all the way down, because I've not knocked it all the way down yet. It's about 5 mil off. It's obviously off our line. But is it worth us doing like starting the angle now? I don't really want to commit to the actual perfect height, because there's going to have an angle going that way, it's exaggerated, and also that way. Or is it worth getting them in, then we'll cut it all at once and then plane it all back. So that's another tool I need to get, as a proper heavy duty plane, don't have to do all this. My little Ryobi cordless thing, I don't think that'll survive very long. Right, so I think if we get them all to that stage now, and then we'll figure out whether we'll try and cut one at an angle, because all the angles will change, won't it? Because of the actual shape of the bow. Right, let's go and cut all them, see how far the wood gets us, and then we can see if we've got the time then to try and work out the angles.
This old habit's got a hold on me, won't let go of me.
So I've been sat here head scratching for a while, taking in the silence. You notice the silence? So quiet. Gemma's at home doing some business accounts, so she'll be here tomorrow. Don't panic. Right, so I've been wondering, do I start the angles on these? It's quite, I won't say it's complicated, but it's very time consuming considering the numbers. Or do we, because we've got the original height of the planks. So here's all the original planks. So we know, what did I say it was? 5.5 inches or something daft like that. So it gets us up to about here. So if I can set up a batten, run a saw down it at the steepest angle, so I can then cut through all of these all at once, leveling off to this. You know what I'm getting at? I could cut it all at once, but then the angle changes as the hull sweeps down. So if I set it to the steepest angle, and then we then plane the top of them to then match the beams, because ideally it'd be good to do that when the beams are in, and then we can actually get a reference then onto the beams then, can't we, rather than us guessing where the beams are. So I think we'll fit all these, then we'll do another overcut, so we'll cut it too big at an angle, just a close angle, still giving us 10 mil, and then I'll invest in a really good plane, and then we can then plane them all back, I think just before the deck goes on really, because then the deck's going to like fasten to all these then, can't it, and stuff like that. So I think that's plan A at the moment. I'm sure there'll be a plan B in the future. So if we just proceed, get all these in, take them back out, paint them, then we can fit them, get them screwed. So good. Right, it was going really well until I remembered the thing that I didn't remember. But if you remember ages ago, we mentioned about how we're going to attach the bulwarks. And that involved we're putting basically some frame material down to go past the beam shelf and the first and the top stringer. But we need a gap for that, don't we? So we need a gap between in a relevant place. So let's try and figure out where that's going to go. So my kind of plan is for the bulwarks, because I don't think we really showed you in the beginning how they were attached. They were basically some bits of timber, and then they just had basically screws fired through, going through into the deck beams, which I think that's what causes a lot of issues, because these just flexed, massively flexed. And I'm looking at this, it flexes. But then once the deck's in, then we can actually then build this up so it's chunkier. I just don't know whether that's going to be an acceptable way of doing it. I haven't got any more simulation pieces of... Or we can then put a piece on the outside of this and then double it up so it's double thick. I don't really know. But we need to think about this now before the deck goes on. All I want to do is get this deck on, but there's so many things to think about. So will that flex when it's got all the other pieces in? There'll be another one there, then there'll be the bulwarks, then there'll be like the capping rail on top of the bulwarks. But what I think we do anyway, who cares at the moment, let's leave a hole there. So we'll have to shorten some of these down. So then we can, in the future, once the deck's in, then we can find the hole and then insert a piece of frame which goes right down, and then it'll span the two. I mean, ideally you put it in now, but then they'll just be stuck up out there, and then potential water leaks and stuff. We haven't got time to properly seal them now. You better just have the deck, won't it? And then we can worry about them later when we do the whole lot of the bulwarks. So I orientated this one here so it comes in line with the deck beam, because what I was thinking, it could offer some strength, but when we come to put the deck beam in, we want it to match this, don't we? And then if there is a problem with flex, then we can double them up. so we can go double thick, which I think will be a much preferred way of doing it. Then you get like, it's more than double the width in it, because it's going to have to span the beam shelf. So if we actually fit these bulwark stanchions in front of the deck beams, so they are here, still going to put load through the deck beam, but then we've got the option then to double them up if we need to, where we can't do that if they're here in front of the deck beam, because we can't take any of the deck beam away. So yeah, I think they're all going to sit in front of the beams, and then we can sort of future-proof it then, can't we? Because we don't want the flex, that will crack the deck and then it'll leak. We want it to, it's going to move anyway, but we want to try and minimise that. Right, they're all cut now with the relevant gaps in them. I've left this one out here because I'm not quite sure where this deck beam is going to go, so we can leave that one till later. All these will fit. I don't want to knock them in because they're a bit of a bugger to get out. So I've had to make like a wedgie shaped one to go in there, which that'll close up when it's knocked in. I've had to wedge this one off because this changes from 40mm or 39mm to 30mm here, so we've had to make a wedgie one here. I had to do some planing, but I'm not very good at planing, so I don't film myself planing anymore, but that went quite well. But all right, so what we need to do now is get all these painted, and then I'll come back in the morning, then we'll fit them all. Okay, so it's a day later, all the pieces are now painted and dry. And I've been looking at this thinking, I wonder if we could do dominoes. What do you think? Yeah. Right, let's go and fit these. It's quite a big tide today. I think it's like a 9.5 or something. So obviously the higher the tide, the faster it comes in, but the least time it has to like do its basically cycle in and out. So see how fast it's going past that buoy there. Hopefully it's going to turn out a nice day. So the old boy just went out on his little seagull. He basically got all the way down there because of the tide. He's conked out, he's just got it going again now. I was just about to say, right, we need to start keeping an eye on him. Can you hear him running now? You probably don't, but it's very, very fast currents there, so you need to be very careful. Right, so we need to get these fixed in now. So basically we need to fix them through the beam shelf. And as I said, eventually it's going to have another piece of material going across here between the two deck beams. Then we'll basically fix them right through. But we need to fix to the beam shelf, then it's got a bit of structure. So what I don't like doing is putting holes in the beam shelf, because obviously you put weaknesses in it, don't you? But then this is going to take up part of the structure of. So yeah, it's all good. So I think we'll go for 2 screws on the big ones. I might just go for 1 on the small ones because they're top and bottom, then it won't move. But do we stagger them, or do we just put them in the middles? Oh, I don't know. They were just in the middles on the original, so yeah, we'll stick with the middles. So for this we're actually using A4 stainless steel. Bought these ages ago, very expensive. Been saving them for a special job. Just doesn't feel quite right putting stainless steel in, but you have to be very careful with them as well. They're not the strongest of material. Hence pre-drilling and countersinking. Right, repeat the process on all the other ones. Right, so basically run out of wood out there now. Let's get some more wood. But what we can do, we've got loads of water. Give the engines a quick run, can't we? And I wouldn't mind trying to figure out, because I think we've got a misfire on the port engine. So, may as well have a quick look at that. I'm not going to get too involved with that at the moment, but it'd be nice to know if it is a misfire or which cylinder it is, blah blah blah. So we'll look at that. Right, so let's fire up. I have actually given it a quick run already, because I was bored. But she'll start off the key now, so. Right, let's go and check on the engines now and have a look. So I haven't got microphones, the batteries went flat, but so this engine is crisp. So it's been running for a while, so it's warm. So that's the starboard engine. We're going to go to the port engine. Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys can hear that, but alright, so let's have a look to see if we can figure out why it's misfiring. Let's go and turn the port engine off so we can hear better. Unfortunately, you have to actually turn the engines off at the wheelhouse, which I think is a bit daft. Do you imagine you just all of a sudden spring a leak or something like that and you want to just be able to shut them down? So that will be an update where we're going to put up a nice big stop button in the engine room at some point, but yeah, it's a later date, isn't it? So Scheldt shuts down nicely from up here. Oh, I've just turned the wrong engine off. Idiots. So let's restart this one. So we're basically going to undo. Where's that light? It's right up here, isn't it? Right, so we're basically going to undo an injector per cylinder, and then we're going to listen to the engine notes. So can you hear it change? that cylinder's running, and we're basically switching off that cylinder by removing the diesel pressure. Yeah. So the first 3 cylinders are running. They go to number 4 now. First 4 cylinders are running. No change. So we're down on 1 cylinder up to now. Number 6 is running, you can hear the note change. So number 5 isn't running, so we'll just confirm that. Is it me, or do we seem to have a lot more diesel coming out on number 5, but I don't know whether that'll make a difference. Might mean the injector's not flowing, but... So what's that telling us? Go and turn it off. The camera's full of diesel, so I've wiped the lens, but the rest of it's full of diesel. Right, yeah, so number 5 isn't running. Why is it not running? What could it be? It could be an injector, could be a stuck valve, could be a cracked piston. If it's a cracked piston, it'd probably burn a lot of oil and smoke on it and breathe. It's just not breathing at all. So I think what we might do is switch injectors. Do you like pull number 5 and stick it in somewhere else and test it that way, or I might even just buy a couple of spare injectors, which wouldn't be a bad thing to have on the boat, would it? Anyway, this isn't what this episode is about. We've just got a lot of water. I thought we'll have a quick mess around. So what do you guys think?
All the work that we do on Sarinda is all made possible with the support of our amazing Patreon supporters and Coffee Monthly members. Without their support, this project wouldn't be possible. So thank all of these people on the screen, as without them, these videos wouldn't be possible. And if you want to join our Patreon or monthly members on Coffee and get early access to our videos and help support the project, we would be so grateful. Until next time, see you next week.